Ugh. Okay. Hello everybody! Welcome to another Hammock video. Haha, okay. This is coming from my Twitch. I'm going to talk more about item stuff. Hopefully my mic doesn't sound shit this time, fingers crossed. I'm going to talk about weapons that exist in the game Team Fortress 2 that aren't necessarily good. Maybe they were nerfed, maybe they just don't fill a very good niche anymore, and we're going to talk about what changes we can do to make them better. Last video I talked about the Sun on the Stick, Candy Cane, Shortstop, Pretty Boys. I didn't really think of anything for Pretty Boys, the Man Treads, and the Buff Banner. So I'm probably going to limit myself this time, maybe talk about 3 or 4 unlocks, because last time I talked about a lot, I went to a lot of tangents, and then my jaw started hurting and my sore throat, and it was not very good. So I'm going to talk about like 4 unlocks, and we're going to figure out what we can do to make those like interesting weapons, make you want to use them in like pubs and stuff. Maybe even use them in Highlander for like playstyles. So, top of the list today is the Liberty Launcher. Okay, Liberty Launcher for the Soldier class. Stats. Plus 25% clip size, so it has 5 shots instead of 4 shots. Plus 40% projectile speed, so the projectile shoots faster. Not quite as fast as the direct hit, but faster than the rocket launcher. Minus 25% blast damage from rocket jumps, so it's kind of like a mini gunboats where you can rocket jump and you take less damage from it. And minus 25% damage penalty. I believe that also stacks with the blast damage thing, so you end up only taking like 10 or so damage from rocket jumping. So let me just create a server here so we can mess with this. And so okay, the Liberty Launcher was part of the Airborne Armament set, which includes the Reserve Shooter and the Market Gardener, and they kind of fit a playstyle that's more rocket jumping around and... Oh wow, okay. Apparently loading a map also execs the config. Let me just join my own server and it'll do it in a different config. Okay. It was part of the Airborne Armament set, and it caters more towards like rocket jumping and juggling and people and stuff. So you have the... Let me just equip them. The Reserve Shooter, let me just equip Uniques here. And the Market Gardener. So, let me just exec a config here. Okay, there we go. So we have these loadouts. You have the Liberty Launcher. It has more shots, which makes it better for like rocket jumping and stuff, so I can rocket jump around. I should actually... Wait, let me just kill myself and... There we go. I want to see how much damage I actually take here. Okay, so I have 200 HP, I go and rocket jump with a crouch jump. I only take 30 from the rocket jump. I just shoot the floor. Takes still quite a lot, but significantly less for rocket jumping. So this is a bit easier for rocket jumping without the gunboats. It means you can run Reserve Shooter, you can jump in, you go to fight someone, you launch them in the air, you Reserve Shooter. And then if you want to like bomb people, you can jump in and mark a garden. It's a mobile loadout. It's a very interesting loadout to head into the game independently. The unlocks are pretty good. Reserve Shooter is monstrous on Pyro. I don't know why they gave it to Pyro. The Market Gardener is a pretty funny weapon in general. It's pretty much the Extinguisher for Soldier. Extinguisher, people don't even know what that weapon is now. And Liberty Launcher is, I'd say it's not very good on its own. It's not even that good with this set, really. Like, why wouldn't you just run Rocket Launcher, or maybe just, like, Black Box to give you the extra healing to make up for the fact that you don't have gunboats. So what can we do with the Liberty Launcher to make it better on its own? So I'm thinking we need to establish the, like, what niche it's trying to fill, and we can do that easily because it's part of this set. So I'm thinking part of this set is trying to be mobile, right? You take less damage and such for rocket jumping, so you're a bit more mobile. But then you've also got the Reserve Shooter, which rewards you for juggling people a lot with it. So maybe... And this also comes to mind, in Man vs. Machine, when you're fighting soldiers who have the Liberty Launcher, the giant robot soldiers, they have an interesting statistic where they can apply knockback to people. So you'd see a giant Liberty Launcher soldier in Man vs. Machine, and it would just juggle everyone everywhere, and it's pretty funny just seeing like heavies, spun up heavies, just flying into the sky like they're scouts. And why isn't that a stat on the Liberty Launcher already? Like, in terms of weapon identity, seeing a weapon, specifically the Liberty Launcher, not just like a rocket launcher with extra stats, because you have like the rapid fire rocket launcher in the game on the like Man vs. Machine soldiers, and Robin Walker if you've seen him fight. But then you have specifically the Liberty Launcher equipped on those soldiers with the knockback. So it makes you think that the knockback is a trait bound to this weapon, and maybe it was. Maybe in development they gave the knockback to the Liberty Launcher and decided to not follow through with it. So I'm thinking maybe we should try that, at least in a more diluted form. Like, have Liberty Launcher apply more knockback, so it's a lot easier to shoot people, juggle them, and then get reserve shooter shots. Maybe it'll make reserve shooter a bit more annoying. And maybe Valve will notice that Reserve Shooter is more annoying now that it's on the class that it was designed for, and maybe they'll actually nerf Reserve Shooter, hopefully. But I think it'd be cool to give knockback to Liberty Launcher. It'll be interesting to see how it would affect the soldier in rocket jumping. Like, would the knockback affect enemies? Or if they did add weird knockback to Liberty Launcher, it would make an interesting, different kind of rocket jumping, where you could probably do less of those pogo jumps, but more like because there's a lot of things in this game that are like, I made this comparison in the previous video between Ambassador and Enforcer, that there's weapons that exist in the game that do a certain thing, but for like skill, but then there's also things in the game that do those same things without necessarily needing the skill, but are obviously less versatile. So you have if you want to take out a sniper with a Razorback, a spy, you can ambi headshot him and then body shot him. If you want to still kill that sniper, but you're less confident in your aim, you can go Enforcer, put on the disguise, and then still two-shot the sniper. You don't have the headshots, which are definitely a lot more versatile for the spy, but you still fulfill the same role without necessarily having to headshot, which is why TF2 is generally a very good casual game, because it gives you this nice bridging. It allows you to fulfill the same role without necessarily applying the same level of skill, but you also have less versatility because you're taking this easy route. So maybe there could be a high knockback weapon, like the Liberty Launcher, which could help benefit soldiers who aren't very good at rocket jumping already. It could be a different type of rocket jump, where instead of doing the skip jumps and pogos and such, where you're jumping around the map, and I'm not a very good example here as I'm messing up all those jumps, but if you're not very good at rocket jumping, like I am, and you can't do all these like pogo jumps and whatever, and yeah, like that, you can have a Liberty Launcher that has a lot of knockback, and you can just shoot the floor and you'll just fly up really high. It'll be like the original TF2 like trailers with the rocket jump waltz, where you're just sort of like jumping. Fucking see, this is why I need it. Like, be able to just rocket jump and fly up really high and then jump. You could run Liberty Launcher with the base jumper and just jump up really high and then glide around. It was also fit because it's like got that like green aesthetic. And yeah, like, and then you can like shoot people, juggle them, use a reserve shooter. It could be a really cool thing because if you're really good at aiming the rockets, you could use it as like practice for juggling. You can like juggle them in the air and then keep them suspended in the air, because if you keep shooting underneath them, they'll keep bouncing up. I'm thinking that to do that, they should also get rid of the faster firing speed, just so that like if it is going to be used as a tool to practice rocket jumping and practice juggling and stuff, they shouldn't like make the projectile move faster, or it will mess with your overall aim with the rocket launcher. But I think that's actually kind of kept the identity of the Liberty Launcher. Like, through all of its iterations, the Liberty Launcher has has a faster moving projectile. So maybe that should stay on there in some regard. Yeah, I haven't had any people in Twitch chat. If you have any ideas for these weapons, please say, and we can talk about them. This is a discussion anyway. So I'm thinking Liberty Launcher should get some kind of knockback ability added to its rocket to synergize with the reserve shooter, and to, you know, keep the identity of Liberty Launcher like how they did in the Man vs. Machine. So I think that's a cool thing. And then less people can like bring up some of the points. I think I might go on to the next one, because I think that's a good enough thing for Liberty Launcher. So let me just add this to my notepad. Okay, next weapon to talk about is the Man Melter. Let me just turn down my music a little bit. Okay. So, the Man Melter is kind of an underwhelming weapon. I mean, there already exists the shotgun and the flare gun, which are arguably, like, the better choices. Everyone ignores the reserve shooter. Just forget the reserve shooter exists. So we're going to look at the Man Melter, which is not a very good weapon. There's not really any reason to use it unless you want to run flog and still not be that guy who can't like extinguish people. Okay, let's look at the stats. Plus 50% projectile speed, so the projectile goes faster. Does not require ammo, not really that much of an issue because dispensers and ammo is everywhere. Alt fire, extinguish teammates to gain guaranteed critical hits. Extinguishing teammates restores 20 health. I think that's just a passive thing that's like added to all the like flamethrowers. And no random critical hits. Pretty much a redundant downside. The downside really is that it's not shotgun. This weapon will automatically reload when not active, a passive ability of all the flare guns. And a lore description. Okay. Let's just switch to pyro. So it has like a beep, like the machinist beep, to show that it's ready to fire. Beep, and I can fire it again. Let me just hold down this one. There we go. It moves a lot faster, so it's easier to aim. It's kind of like a Diamondback, where you can like store crits by doing stuff. Also, Krevek, I'm not going to be talking about Dead Ringer today. This video is more about talking less relevant weapons that like people just forget about and don't really care about. Talking about Dead Ringer would be more about talking about controversial weapons and weapons that are relevant but need tweaking. This is mainly just talking about the irrelevant weapons. So, with the Man Melter, I guess the playstyle is you have a lot of teammates who are on fire because they have a lot of enemy pyros. You can run around, you can extinguish them. Kind of reminds me of the Deluminator from Harry Potter. You can extinguish them, you can store a bunch of crits, and then you can use those crits to damage people. And it does like 90 damage on the crit. So it's the equivalent of the Diamondback to the Ambassador, where the Ambassador does 102 damage on headshot, and you can just do it whenever you want, whenever you can aim a headshot. And then you have the Diamondback, which does 102 damage crits that are stored from getting backstabs and sapping people. Not sapping people, sapping buildings. And yeah, you can trade either having those crits by getting them in combat by being good at aiming, or by just stunning people with the air blast, I guess. Or you can get them by doing a certain quest, I guess. But this quest is like not as good because it's incredibly reliant on the enemy team having pyros, and at the same time having your teammates not extinguish them and leaving them for you so that you can get crits. And even then, these crits aren't even that good, because like you'd be like sitting at the back line like doing this, like shooting people for like 90 damage. Like, well, who would you be shooting at? Would you just be shooting at random people? Like, why are you playing this far back shooting people when you're a pyro? If you want to do that, why don't you just equip Scorch Shot? It like does basically the same thing, except you can harass people more and it has more utility. So, I guess we need to think of what niche does this Man Melter fill? What desire would pyros have to run this weapon? And how can we fulfill that role in a more useful way? Like, this is definitely going to be a utility weapon. We already have shotgun and flare gun as damage weapons. We have detonator and scorch shot that provide damage and utility. Maybe Man Melter would be like a full utility weapon, or maybe it would be more in line with the detonator and the scorch shot. I'm thinking it could probably be a full utility weapon, since pyro definitely needs utility, and the secondary is pretty much pyro's ranged weapon. So trading a ranged weapon for some kind of ability would need to allow pyro to get into close range. which is kind of what Scorch Shot and Detonator try to do. With the Detonator, you can use it to jump around the map and jump towards people faster, and Scorch Shot, you can do that to a lesser extent, but it's a little bit like easier to do because you just need to shoot the floor. Or Detonator, you need to like self-det, but you can like do like a self-det horizontal to like fly towards people and such, which is pretty interesting. So I remember an idea a while ago, I think it was on Spuff or on TF2 Reddit, but someone came up with the idea for the Man Melter where all these crits you're storing, you can destroy the crits, you can absorb them to get an effect. And one of the cool ideas for an effect would be, say you have a bunch of crits, you can like sacrifice one of the crits to turn it into a speed boost. So for example, you could build up a bunch of crits, destroy a bunch of it, and then activate the speed boost and then run towards people. So that deals with the idea that the Pyro's secondary deals with the range, and you can do that by closing the distance, by being the close quarters class.
The engineer is in.
Thank you, iBoop3. Welcome to the NG stream. So, that could definitely be an interesting idea. I also like the idea that since... I can't really do a good demonstration here, I don't know how to spawn bots in. But, when you get the crits on this weapon, it's only for this weapon, and I feel like that's, like... The weapons this would go with, this weapon goes on the set with, like, Flog and Third Degree. Flog, where's Third Degree? There it is. Wait. Thank you, Volvo. Okay. So we have the Flog, which, you know, you build crits and you can run around and murder everybody. And you have the Third Degree, which is kind of a weird one, which we might talk about as well, where anyone hit connected by meta beams is hit, so if you hit a heavy, you'll hit the medic for the same damage. So maybe we should add some synergy to the set, in that the Man Melter builds crits, right? What if we allow it so when you build crits with the Man Melter, you can use those crits on your melee weapon? Because giving it on your primary weapon might be a bit too strong, especially since it might take away the identity from the Phlogiston being this crit flamethrower. If you can do that on every flamethrower, like, why would you run this? Especially when you're lacking Air Blast. So maybe with Man Melter you can crit boost your melee weapon. So that would add a lot of synergy to this, because a crit melee with the Third Degree would do 195 damage. Very decent amount of damage. The amount of damage you would need to kill a medic, for example. So, Man Melter and... for some reason... oh, it's because I didn't die. There we go. So Man Melter and Third Degree, you can get a crit, activate it on your Third Degree, run up to like a heavy medic, smack the heavy in the face with this, and it will kill the medic because the crit follows on from the chain and kills the medic. So I think that's like a really good change idea, because it works with the synergies of the set, it adds the identity, people will want to run this set together because the Man Melter and the Third Degree work together with each other. You want to run the Third Degree because it works with the Flog, because you can't Air Blast, so you can't extinguish teammates. So it works together. And, yeah. And maybe the Third Degree should also do some kind of, like, fire damage, so that when you do get the 195 crit, that fire damage then builds into the Flog charge. Actually, no, it says it builds it by dealing damage. Okay, I thought it was only by dealing damage. Wait. I remember specifically the Flog built off fire damage, because if you got, like, Scorch Shot and Flare Gun damage, it would build the Flog, but if you got shotgun damage, it didn't. So I think it's specifically bound to fire damage. So maybe if they made it so the Third Degree gave damage towards the Flog, then it would tie in this set very well. So okay, I think that's like a good concept. I'm not sure about the speed boost of Man Melter, if that could be like added to it. It might be a little bit too much. If you add speed boost to the Man Melter, it could take away the identity from the Power Jack. Then again, Power Jack gives it all the time, well, Man Melter is rarely. I think, as well as the giving crits to melees, I think another change to Man Melter to bring it up to like shotgun, flare guns, and Scorch Shot standards would be increasing the opportunities to get the critical hits. It doesn't even say what charges it is. Like, Fog is oomph. Like, what is a Man Melter? We'll just say that it's called charges. So like, You get charges by extinguishing teammates who are on fire. That's very circumstantial, because afterburn isn't very relevant in this game anymore. So, like, someone being set on fire, like, so do you just expect the enemy team to be running Detonator and Scorch or whatever and just be setting people on fire and you running around and cleaning up? And even then, if a pyro is running in and burning people, what are you doing? Are you running after the guy who's being burned? Like, give me all your crits, please, and you're not even killing the pyro because he's giving you crits? Like, that's not a very healthy attitude. You're often leaving your teammates to die to give you crits. That shouldn't be beneficial to you. So maybe you should get crits from doing other things as pyro. Maybe you should get crits from killing spies. I don't know. Getting crits from just, like, burning people. I don't know. Like, what thing does pyro do a lot that should be rewarded? Because we have extinguishing. I know. Deflecting projectiles. But that probably wouldn't work because it's part of the Flog set and Flog can't deflect. But that could be another thing. Like, Man Melter could just reward doing support things, because there's already the extinguishing teammates part. Deflecting projectiles could definitely do it, like for each projectile you deflect, you could get like a stored crit. That could be like a really cool thing. Maybe breaking sappers with the Homewrecker, but to be honest, I don't want to encourage the behavior of the Homewrecker anymore. It shouldn't exist. That's probably another weapon to add onto the list. Change Homewrecker. But yeah, like, I can't really think of an additional ability right now, but currently I think the Man Melter change should be apply the stored crits to your melee weapon and have additional ways to generate crits besides extinguishing teammates. So, deflecting projectiles. That could just be another one. But that doesn't work with the Flog. It could just work with other stuff, and I don't know if there's necessarily a reason to run Man Melter with the other flamethrowers, besides probably Backburner, just because Backburner costs a little bit more to air blast, 150%. So yeah, I think that's a good resolution for Man Melter. Let me just write that down. Man Melter crits your melees and can gain crits from deflections. Okay. Next weapon to talk about for Pyro is... where is it? The Neon Annihilator. Okay. The stats. Damage removes sappers. 100% critical hit versus wet players. No random critical hits. And minus 20% damage versus players. Okay. So damage removes sappers. I'm trying to remember. I think sappers have 100 HP. And melee weapons do 65 damage. So this weapon does like less damage against players. I think it does like around about 40 to 50 damage to players. So when it crits is like 3 times the damage. And I believe a critical Neon Annihilator does like 140 or so damage. That's like 47 or something million? I don't know. My mathematics isn't that good. I'm gonna have to reference. But I wanna keep this going. So the damage versus is saying minus damage versus players to keep that 65 damage to sappers, which means you have to take 2 hits to destroy a sapper. The Homewrecker one-shots sappers, and that's because the Homewrecker does 100% damage versus buildings, and a sapper counts as a building. Which is why, if you look at my strangers, I have 244 sappers removed and 294 buildings destroyed. That's because if you have the buildings destroyed strange part, every time you destroy a sapper, it adds to that part. So it's kind of like unnecessary to have a sappers removed if you have a buildings destroyed, unless you want to specifically specify. Like how I got, I guess it's like 50 buildings destroyed, probably like tellies and dispensers. So, a Neon. 100% crits versus wet players. Now, no, not that what you're thinking. Basically, if they're covered in Gerati or milk, they're considered wet. So you could have some cool synergies with a scout buddy. There's interesting like pyro scout synergies in this game. Like you could, like in medieval mode, there's the candy cane that drops health packs, and then the pyro has the back scratcher, which gives you more value from health packs. You also have the scout, sun on the stick, and the volcano fragment. So there's like some interesting things. I guess it's because they're both like meant to be mobile, like frontline offensive characters. So you could have some interesting synergy where the scout throws milk on a enemy, and then a pyro walks in with the Neon Annihilator, gets a bunch of crit damage and kills them, and in the process heals up the damage they would have taken in that exchange. It also means people who are sitting in water, and this doesn't necessarily mean they have to be submerged in water, like the deep water in Two Fort or in Lakeside, but they just need to touch water and they're considered wet. So just the puddles in Hydro, the sewers in Two Fort, just the water at the bottom of, I believe, Asheville. There's like slight water in the bottom near like the health pack. Like, if you touch that, you're considered wet and you can be crit. So there are some interesting tactics where you walk into an area like that and you get crit. And I feel like that isn't very a good idea. Like, it's an interesting concept and it's definitely like really cool, but they don't explain that very well because this wasn't a weapon that was introduced on launch. So there's a lot of maps that just have water just because cosmetically it looks nice and doesn't actually do anything, which are now potentially dangerous because of Neon Annihilator. Obviously it isn't that much of a threat because people don't use this weapon, it's not very good. But the idea of just giving it like the wet ability to give crits kind of just means, oh look, I just walked into this puddle, now I'm going to die to this pyro. Then again, they're probably going to die to the pyro anyway if they have like shotgun or flare gun or reserve shooter. So it's not necessarily that Neon Annihilator was the one thing that ruined their scenario, but it's just like an additional part of the game which isn't accounted for in a lot of fights. Like, you could just like run up to a pyro and be like, oh, I'm gonna win this guy in a melee fight, he's challenging me to a melee fight, I'm gonna do that, and then you die to a crit and you're like, what the fuck? And it's because you walked into a puddle somewhere, and that wasn't correctly explained to you. So I don't think the wet ability would be nice. But it's also worth noting that when the Neon Annihilator was going to be released, it had completely different stats. We don't know what those stats are. Maybe someone knows, but we don't know these stats. It was equivalent to a Pyro Caber, as in you can like one-shot people. That's what people have said. I don't personally know the stats. So we know that these were last-minute changes. They were like, let's make it so it removes sappers, so it's like the Homewrecker, so you can be a Pybro, and, you know, it's a sign, it's like an electrical sign, right? So let's do what we do with the Extinguisher, where it like crits on burning players. Let's make it so it crits on wet players. So I don't know, it was a good, like, attempt, considering the time that they had, and they did definitely make an interesting weapon from it, so definitely props to them. It's just, what can we do to make this weapon more interesting and better? So, let's look at the niche, as we've been doing with the other unlocks. What does Neon Annihilator attempt to provide that other weapons do not? It allows you to give you some form of additional damage for playing in unknown territory. The Pyro is weak in watery areas, because flamethrowers and flare guns don't work underwater, so there's this interesting Pyro Shark playstyle, which they've encouraged because you can get like this cute little sharkette now, and you see people playing on Two Fort or certain custom maps with a lot of water with the Pyro Shark, and I feel like if they got rid of the crit versus wet players effect, it would definitely displease a lot of people who've adapted to that playstyle, and we definitely shouldn't encourage that. The interesting playstyles in TF2 are what keep it lively. So I feel like while the crit versus wet players is definitely very niche and won't be used in a lot of maps because water isn't very fun to play in, and a lot of the maps that do have puddles and such are just there cosmetically. They're not put into the map design the idea that, oh, we should tactically put water here for these pyros. That isn't a decision that's often made unless the person in mind is an avid Neon Annihilator fan. So we should try and give Neon Annihilator a niche that like benefits this Pyro Shark playstyle for the people who play it, but also gives it more uses out of that, so that you don't just see them using it and you immediately know they're just going to be sitting in the pool. You want them to still fulfill the pyro archetype. So, first of all, I want to get rid of damage remove sappers, because that's a terrible mechanic, and even as a person myself, an engineer main, someone who's put a lot of time into playing engineer, I hate the concept of the ability to break sappers, because the spy-engineer relationship is interesting. We could probably go into this at another point. I've actually gone over it a few times in separate videos, but to keep it light, the spy has a hard time getting an NG. They're both classes that scale up and scale down depending on the ignorance and the awareness of the enemy team. And if a spy can kill an engineer and sap his buildings, he deserves it. Because a team protecting an engineer makes a spy's life very difficult. So a pyro is often sitting there protecting the NG and stopping the buildings from being sapped. He can easily air blast the spy into a corner and kill him, burn everywhere, spy check, go after him, whatever. At the point that the engineer is incapable of removing the sapper, either by the building being sapped and him dying, or him leaving the area and, having bad positioning and leaving a spy to get a sap, the pyro should have no ability in that equation to deal with that sapper. That is the engineer's fault in its entirety. The spy deserves to sap that building. And the pyro, in the process of not killing the spy and letting him sap the building, shouldn't be allowed to break the sapper. It's like a band-aid. It feels unfair to compare to Overwatch, since a lot of people, hate it. It's kind of like the idea of Mercy having a res. Even though it's a really interesting idea, it's the concept of, you're a healer. If you have the ability to resurrect someone that died, why? That's just your fault for not healing them correctly, Probably a bad comparison. Actually, that's definitely a bad comparison. But yeah, the idea is, pyro shouldn't be able to break the sappers, because at the point that it's the pyro's job to break the sappers, it's the point that the pyro has failed at its job, basically. That's about as light as I could go into it, until have to rant about it. So okay, damage remove sappers. That concept should just be removed from the game. Maybe we should do something for Homewrecker, interestingly, to make it so it's the anti-mini sentry thing, because fuck mini sentries. Am I right, guys? Yeah, that's how you get YouTube views. You just say fuck minis, right? It's not like I'm a fucking mini sentry spammer or anything. So Neon Annihilator, remove damage from sappers, keep that crit versus wet players, because that's an interesting stat, we want to keep that in the game. No random critical hits, that's a negligible downside, doesn't exist. Minus damage versus players, we can probably get rid of that, because the sapper thing is no longer an issue, so you don't have to worry about, whatever. And, yeah, doing 195, damage on crit to people who are wet, I think that's okay. Extinguisher was okay. The only reason Extinguisher got nerfed is because so many bad people complained about it. It was a totally fine unlock. It was great. Heck, I actually kind of liked the original nerfed Extinguisher, where you could crit on backstabs. That was fucking cool. That was interesting. You saw people like Sketchek and what's his name, TMP, just doing all these really cool trick stabs with Pyro. That was really cool. I don't know why they nerfed it even more. People are just fucking terrible at this game, apparently. Even if you're terrible, just play NG and build minis. That's how you counter it. That's what you do when you're bad. That's why I play fucking NG. I'm bad. Okay. So yeah, make Neon Annihilator basically the water equivalent of the Extinguisher. I don't care if you give 195 damage. Maybe you can do more damage, because water is such a specific effect, and it's so niche that it's not going to happen in a lot of situations. And if you can get it to work, then that's good on you. That's game sense. You've made it work. Someone in the chat, so you're a pyro main? No, I'm an engineer main. I'm just talking about weapons that are shit and how we can make them not shit. So yes, Neon Annihilator. Remove damage from sappers, remove the less damage. It'll be fine if it did 195 damage. You could get some cool, like, scout mad milks everybody, and then the guy with the Neon Annihilator runs in and just murders everybody. That would be pretty cool. Maybe give Pyro, like, a cool summer weapon where it's a flamethrower that is a super soaker. So it's basically the equivalent of flamethrower extinguisher, but that, like, has water. I don't know, that'd be cool. It'd be pretty neat. But what else utility could we add to the Neon Annihilator? It already fulfills the role of extinguisher in water, which is extremely niche unless you're camping the puddles in certain maps, which, to be honest, is pretty cute, because you've already got this adorable looking hat here. I think it looks better on blue. Yeah. But, and then you just see like these little puddles, and you see little pyros in there just floating around going, and it's just pretty cute. Like, crouching pyro is like, let me just show you guys. I don't know if I'm like the only person in this, but like, fucking... let me just... there we go. Look at this shit. Crouching pyro is like the cutest thing. Look at that walk. He's just like, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna get you. Look at that. It's like the best thing in this game. Look at this. He's so cute. Just seeing like a crouched pyro in like a puddle, like, I'm gonna get you. It's just so funny. Look at this. Look at this guy. He's so adorable. I want more of this. Valve, give me more of this. Pyro update. Make it so crouching pyro is the new meta. Look at this. Don't you want more of this? Quack. Yeah, look at him. He's a cutie. He's a cutie with a booty. Okay, so what kind of niche do we want for Neon Annihilator? So we already established extinguisher in the water, but it has the damage remove sappers. In my universe, it no longer has it. What can we do? Like, the idea was you want to play maybe more like reserved, maybe more passive, maybe more support. So maybe we want to have another support ability. When we look at other pyro weapons, we have the Power Jack, which is King, which is, I don't even know where it is, which gives you movement speed, which is a very good ability. So we want to be able to contest with that. Bouncing around stock is a bad idea, because if we bounce around stock, then it's not going to be interesting. We want to bounce around the other weapons that we're going to use. We want to bounce around this, the Pretty Machete, truly the best melee weapon. Look at that fucking animation, it's the best. We have the third degree, which doesn't really do too much either. The extinguisher, which is absolute garbage now. I got this! I got this professional killstreak festive strange extinguisher right before the nerf. And now I feel bad because I didn't get to use it. Ugh. We have the back scratcher, which I think is a really cool weapon. It's not that good if you want to be like competitive, because Power Jack. But I just think it's a really interesting weapon. It does more damage. You get more healing from health packs, so you get to just like play flank pyro. I like used to run this when I played like Dragon Pyro with the backbone, the detonator, back scratcher. You sort of like play the flanks and sort of sit near a health pack, and that'll be your domain. That'll be your dragon domain, where you would deny scouts from having fun.
You dare enter my domain?
That's my dragon voice. I don't know, my throat's already really sore. Okay, so what do we want the Neon Annihilator to do? So I'm just imagining, because it's already a niche weapon, there's certain parts of the map that you're going to use it in. And immediately that comes to mind, the only place that I can really see Neon Annihilator being like an active thing is 2 Fort. Sitting in 2 Fort sewer, doing that meme strat where you surf across the fucking suicide, which... the suicide. That's a interesting phrase. You like surf across that area, and then you like Neon Annihilate people, which is pretty fun. That's been in the game for a while. I'm glad people actually know what to do now. And it's an interesting thing. You can guard sewer. Sewer's already been like a pretty good place for pyro because it's a choky area, and people think they're safe because there's water, but really they're not. As soon as they turn their back, that's when they're dead. So it helps make Pyro king in that area. So maybe if we can encourage stronger behavior and stronger like play patterns from playing in that area with Neo Annihilator. So what can we do? So we're already going to expect them to run at people who are in water. So maybe Neo Annihilator can make you move faster in water. Maybe it can be like a power jack where when you have it out you can run faster. I actually saw ideas on Spuff and Reddit a while ago. Why not just buff all of Pyro's melees so that you run a little bit faster when you have it out? So it's kind of like Cat Strike, where if you have your melee out you run faster. Because that's kind of like an important thing that Pyro needs to be able to like catch up with people and chase after them, because he's kind of a chasing character. So maybe we could do that. Or we could buff Neo Annihilator so it's a side grade of Power Jack, where Power Jack is that you run faster but you take more damage, and if you hit people you can heal up. Neo Annihilator is you run faster, but instead of it being... Because Power Jack is more that you run faster and you use it to get there, and then you switch to your main weapons. Maybe Neo Annihilator you will like stay on Neo Annihilator. Let me just get a drink. Okay, so maybe Neo Annihilator could be honor bound, like the katana, the half Zatoichi. I think it's... I don't know if it's Zatoichi or Zatoichi, because I don't know if Oich is like how you say it. Ugh, I'm such a fucking weeb. Okay. Yeah, it's honor bound, so when you pull it out, you need to like kill someone to switch it away, or you're going to take damage. So maybe it could be something like that, where like you have it out, and then you need to get a kill before you can switch off it, so it like forces you to play around it. So yeah, it could be honor bound. And then if it's honor bound where you can't switch off it, then we can give it some really good buffs to like make it useful to like force it. We don't want to do what they did with Warrior Spirit and Buffalo Steak, where we're going to force you to run melee and then also make you really bad because we know people in this game can't focus fire giant fat Russian guys. Why didn't they just give you like damage resistance? Like, why damage vulnerability? That's such... and that's a separate video. We're going to talk about hibernating bear at a separate time. Okay. So, I'm thinking Neo Annihilator. It's honor bound. It crits on people who are wet. Maybe we could add different additional circumstances in which it'll crit. Maybe it'll crit when they're scared and they're running away and they're peeing their pants. Or that could be a thing. You know, like Tryndamere in League of Legends, where if they have your back to you, they're like, you can like run faster towards them. I guess that would be like Backburner, right? Maybe. I mean, maybe we could like perpetuate that strat of the chase pyro. Like, you could have like an activatable ability on the Neo Annihilator, where you activate it and it's like a fear, and then if they've got your back to you and you're close to them, it Jiratis them, because they're so scared that they pee their pants. And then because they're Jirati, you do crits. And then you could also use it as a support ability, because you could activate it and then other teammates can shoot them and they like take mini crits. But you deal crits, because you do crits too. I know, I think that's such like a silly idea. I like that. I want that to be the game actually. That's so cool. Okay, let's do that. Okay. Neo Annihilator stats. It's honor bound now, so when you have it out, you have to get a kill before you can switch away from it. It will have an activatable ability where you can scare people with it and spook them. And if you activate it while they're looking away from you, they become scared, in which it's basically them being Jirati'd from where they're so scared they pee their pants and they Jirati themselves and they take mini crit damage. Don't ask me lore-wise why they have the Jirati when they didn't take the Jirati pills like the sniper. But I don't know, I just find that fucking funny. Maybe they don't even get Jirati, they just get wet because they peed themselves, and then you can do crit damage to them. So the Neo Annihilator is this fear weapon where you play on the fact that people are going to run away, you can chase after them and get crit damage. Maybe your Neo Annihilator also allows you to run faster towards wet people. That could be more of a... That would make more sense than my silly scaring ability. I don't know, I still think that's kind of funny. Like, it could be some kind of... I don't know, I keep comparing to League of Legends. Like, I have it on my mind. I like how the abilities in that game synergize with each other. Another game that I really like talking about. It could be like a Warwick who can like run faster towards people who are low HP. It could be something like that, where like Pyro knows when people have recently been taking a swim, pool's closed, Pyro goes after you. Now I want an afro and a suit for Pyro. Oh, classic memes. Okay. Pyro could like run faster towards people who have the wet status. Maybe the wet status could be more identifiable, like they'll have an icon on them, like in colorblind mode. Colorblind mode is a good mode to have, just because it gives you like the Jarate icon and the bleed icon, which is good. So yeah, there could be buff the ability to see when people are wet, because you pretty much just have to guess, or just have a big brain and be like, they walked in a puddle on this map, I'm going to hit them. I don't even know how long that lasts. Maybe it lasts 10 seconds. Things usually last 10 seconds in this game. So yeah, Neon Annihilator ideas. Remove damage, remove sappers. It's still crits versus wet players. No random critical hits, doesn't really care, it's negligible. Remove the minus damage, because why does it have to do less damage? It's already doing damage to wet people, it's not like that's going to happen all the time. Why nerf that even more? And make it so Pyro can run faster towards people who are wet, and give us the ability to know when people have the wet status. Like, give them an icon, tell us how long that duration is going to last, and, you know, tell the player when they're getting it. Like, you've just recently jumped into water, let's give them like a little icon on their HUD saying that they are now soaked. I think soaked is a better name. Wet, you know, it has connotations, it has nuance to it. Let's just say soaked. Moist. Let's use the word moist. No, let's use soaked. Okay, I think that's a reasonable change. It keeps the people who like playing Pyro Shark, gives them a little buff. Maybe has some kind of uses out of it, probably not, but I mainly just want to get rid of the damage remove sappers and then increase the damage, because the damage, like, yeah, it doesn't need to do less damage, and get rid of damage remove sappers from the game, because I don't like that stat, it's very unhealthy. Okay, so yeah, I think that's enough. We've talked over 3 weapons. My throat's already hurting. I think 3 weapons is enough. So we went over Liberty Launcher, Man Melter, and Neon Annihilator. To recap, Liberty Launcher, we suggested that we should just give it knockback to fit with the MVM Liberty Launcher, and to synergize with Reserve Shooter. You can juggle people a lot easier, and because it already makes you take less damage from rocket jumping, it could be an interesting like rocket jumping practice tool where you can use it to just shoot the floor and do like the original rocket jump waltz soldiers, where you just jump really high in the air. Maybe you could synergize it with base jumper and jump really high in the air and then fly around and stuff. It would just be like a cool weapon for people who aren't trained in rocket jumping, allowing them to still have the mobility. The Man Melter, we suggested allow the crits to be used on your melee weapons. So you can synergize it with the 3rd degree, apply the crits to the 3rd degree, hit a heavy, bam, 195 damage to the medic, killing him. Good synergy, keeps with the set. You could maybe use it with other weapons, but I mean, it stays with the set. And buff the Man Melter so that you can get the crits from doing other things. So it's not specifically bound to extinguishing teammates, because that can be pretty rare resource. But maybe you can also get it from deflecting projectiles. Maybe it should reward you with crits for doing support things as the Pyro, being the support weapon for Pyro. Problem is that doesn't stick with the identity of the loadout here, the Grodbort's Moonman pack, because the Phlogistonator cannot deflect. But it may give you a reason to run it with other weapons like the Degreaser and the Flamethrower, so you can farm crits by being a support Pyro, a Pybro. It could be the Pybro's choice of a secondary. And then the Neon Annihilator, which we just talked about, the supposed buff and changes would be remove damage, remove sappers, because that isn't very healthy for the game. Remove the less damage versus players, because really you need to lower the damage you do to wet players. It's such a niche thing that really the Pyro should be rewarded for that. and give it an ability to allow you to run faster towards people who are currently soaked. So when you have it out, you can like run faster towards them and chase after them. And give the ability to easily identify when you are soaked or wet. I prefer the term soaked because, you know. And yeah, give it like a HUD icon, so if you jump in the water or you walk over a puddle or you're covered in milk and Jardy, you have a little icon on your like HUD with like a little water drop or something like that, just saying, by the way, you're soaked. Maybe it'll give you like a little like timer of this is how long it will last for, maybe. Or just tell the player this, look out for pyros with shark cats running towards you with a sign, because that could be dangerous. Anyway, it was the free weapons I wanted to talk about. If you watched this video all the way through, thank you. I'm surprised you managed to listen through my tangents and whatever. I'm glad you listened. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Okay, nice. I'm gonna upload